Okay, I'd like to bring this Ways and Means Committee meeting to order this Tuesday, December 4th. Deanne, will you take roll call, please?
Lutz.
Here.
Durantek.
Here.
Krieger.
Yes.
Begier.
Here.
Kunin.
Here.
Ryder.
Here.
Garrett.
Here.
Warren present.
Okay, before you, we have the minutes of 10/2/18.
Motion to approve was presented. Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Next, we have the public input. Anybody from the public that would like to approach the committee may do so at this time and let us know what you're thinking. I see they're all rushing to the podium. Okay, so seeing none, we will move on to petitions and communications. Under A, we have information systems. It's the next week at the board meeting, we're going to have a presentation of the Countywide Independent Security Audit by MGT.
Support.
There's nothing to receive.
We haven't got it yet, Jen?
It's referred to yet.
Right, but are you going to get all of us that?
Tomorrow morning, yeah.
Okay, before the next meeting.
Correct.
I just wanted to mention that we haven't received it yet, so I guess we'll refer this to next week's meeting. Okay, can we do that? Can I get a motion to refer?
So moved. Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have under B, the Deputy Director of Mid-State Health Network, the 2019 Intergovernmental Agreement. What is your proposal?
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Commissioner Kuhn.
I'm assuming that this is going to be an item that BABH, for BABH, correct? So maybe we should have somebody here next Tuesday to discuss it. Okay, good.
Chris Kenter will be at the board meeting too, Joe.
All right.
Will he? Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Kuhn. Anyone else? No?
I was just going to repeat what that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So do we have a motion and support? We have a motion and we have support. Any other discussion? Seeing none at this time? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next is item C, the Director of Recreation and Facilities is the DNR project agreement amendments. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion?
That was, in reading that was basically going to be a city issue then. They just had to kind of clean up the language, so if the city applied for grants or what have you.
If I could, I'm just going to try to give you a quick back history on it. These are old grants from one in the 60s and one in the 70s. At the time we applied for those grants, we had owned Veterans Memorial Park. We deeded it to the city in 1981, and since that time, the city has owned Vets Park. So just kind of to clean up, to do some housekeeping, we actually have to just sign an amendment that says that the city is now going to be the responsible party for perpetual encumbrance. It doesn't really change any responsibility on their part because they have received grants for Veterans Memorial Park since 1981, so they already have that responsibility because any grants from the DNR require that responsibility. They already have it. This is kind of just housekeeping and paperwork from these grants from the 60s and 70s. That makes more sense.
That's what I thought.
And if we don't do it, it is going to affect grants in the future. So we just have to get this.
Those grants would be coming from, or for the city then. They would be applying for them, for Vets Park and the tennis courts.
Correct, but it would also affect any grants that we have going forward because currently those grants from the 60s and 70s are currently in our name and we need to transfer them over to the city because the city is the property owner.
One of them housekeeping measures that DNR actually came to Kristen about. So it was raised by them just to clarify and clean up that transaction of transferring ownership of Vets Park from the county to the city. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Next, under D, we have Director of Administrative Services, who's on vacation, and we have his replacement, if there's any questions. So the first is the renewal of the property liability insurance with MMRMA.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. And what's nice about that is we're gonna get $319,000 back, well, almost $319,500 back from MMRMA. So that's gonna be a good thing. It's basically almost 58% of our total premium, which went down $5,000, right? So,
I've got a question.
Commissioner,
Is that money going to be allocated in 18 or 19?
What we would like to do with the return that we have, because we can get a check as soon as, well, basically as soon as we let them know where we want to put it, we can get it this month. We renewed this month, but what we have generally done in the past is we've taken that return from MMRMA and we've put it back into our fund balance at MMRMA. We need to put some in order to take our self-insured retention back up to the minimum amount that we need to keep it at. Based on the current lawsuits that we have pending, we would like to, in order to have that comfortable cushion to cover the SIR, because we have $150,000 for each individual event. We have 4 outstanding lawsuits right now. We would like to put that money back in as we've done in previous years. And we will earn interest on it during the time period it's there. If we need it, it's there, and we have that insurance. And if we don't need it at any point in time, we can always just inform MMRMA, hey, we need a check and X, worth X number of dollars, and they'll return that to us at any time that we need it.
So they're going to hold on to it?
Yes,
And it's invested there?
it is, and we get quite a good return on it.
All right.
anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I do have one additional issue. We had asked this year for additional information from MMRMA about the possibility of sewer coverage. We had previously not gotten sewer coverage in the past because we didn't have any infrastructure that would require us to have that type of coverage. They have expanded the definition of sewer in the applicable statute to include storm sewers as well. So there's a possibility that we could get additional coverage for any of our storm sewers throughout Bay County that are maintained by the Drain Commissioner. If we did so, the cost of that insurance for a 1-year period would be $13,154. That would be an additional yearly charge. However, there are still some questions that I'm working at with MMRMA as to whether or not that covers all of the storm sewers in the county, or if it only covers a certain number of them, because we do have the separate drainage districts. So I would ask the board for the authority to renew the MMRMA policy with the inclusion of that $13,154 for sewer coverage, if it's determined that that coverage covers the majority of the county. If we determine that it's only going to cover a small portion of it, we'll make the determination not to include that additional rider on the renewal.
Commissioner Krieger.
So Amber, what would that policy actually cover?
That policy would cover events that were caused by storm events that are out of the ordinary. For instance, we had some issues, I believe it was last year or at the end of the prior year with regard to Tebow Erickson, because we did have that storm event that was so very, very large. There would be the possibility of coverage in that event, some maintenance issues, but I think basically just those storm events. The maximum amount of coverage that MMRMA will offer is $500,000, and it is subject to our standard SIR. That's the maximum amount that they'll allow, so that's what the $13,000 would cover.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ryan.
Is anyone here from the Drain Commission? I'd feel more comfortable hearing from the Drain Commissioner on this issue before I cast any vote.
And I did speak with the drain commissioner on this because it was his question as to whether or not it would cover the different drainage districts or if it would just cover all of the storm drains in Bay County. And we've been going back and forth with the insurance carrier on that issue because it's multi-layered, so it's kind of complex. We're trying to determine exactly what that coverage would be. The coverage for the drain commissioner, historically, since we've switched over to MMRMA, has been paid out of the general fund as opposed to out of the drain fund.
Now, Amber, would that additional cost be like an indirect charge? Whoever looks, if it's or if it's Maximus or whoever's doing the indirect for the county, would they look at this additional cost, $13,000, and be an indirect charge to the drain commission, or you're not sure how that would work?
I'm not sure how it would work yet. I don't know if it would be just limited to the drain district. I don't think so. I think it would just be countywide because what it's basically doing is taking the liability off the county's general fund. If there's an event that's not covered by insurance, the county's responsible for that. And so it takes the liability off the county proper.
So will you have more information between now and next Tuesday?
I will.
Okay, and you'll disseminate that to all of us?
I will. Yep.
So this would be just basically a vote to get it to next week?
I'm sorry?
This is a vote just to get it to the board meeting next week?
Correct.
It's not the final approval.
Yes.
So with that, any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. The next would be the County Veteran Service Fund Grant for $25,000.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh,
And I think there's
Commissioner
more
Reed.
than this. This is sort of the base for everybody, and there can be more added on to this depending on how many veterans we have and some demographics too, so there need more funding available. Okay.
we hope. So, we have a motion and support, right? All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Under 3, we got the 2019 Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency Council Incentive Grant of $5,000. Also, that we could apply for the veterans. So,
Support.
we have a motion to support, and probably more beyond that, as Commissioner Ridiculous said. So, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have the Gypsy Moth Suppression Program Coordinator. It's a treatment contract for Gypsy Moth.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. So do we have Gypsy Moths here? Because I know there's probably going to be some questions. How's Alicia doing?
No.
I have one.
Okay.
So is this raising its ugly head again? Is that what you're?
Yes, it is. The gypsy moth population statewide has really blown up. Bay County, we always take a very proactive stance when we're dealing with the gypsy moth as the population builds up. We check about 500 sites throughout Bay County to determine how the population is doing. Is it growing? Is it staying stable? We treated last in 2016 because we saw the population here in southern Bay County blowing up, and we wanted to keep that suppressed so people didn't have to go through that phase of defoliation and caterpillars dropping all over them and the nastiness that can be a gypsy moth outbreak. Unfortunately, for other parts of the state, they didn't do that. They're reactive in their approach. So places like Potter Park in Lansing was defoliated last summer, and they had caterpillars and droppings on them. Michigan State University, Clare County, Gladwin County, Roscommon County. They had huge tracts of land that were defoliated by the gypsy moth. We haven't had that yet. We have found a few places in Bay County where the population is building up to those levels. And so we'd like to treat them while they're small. And I say small, 300 acres is actually small because we're talking, less than a square mile being treated as opposed to in some parts of Clare County, Roscommon County, where they had defoliation that was, multiple square miles of all of the oak trees defoliated. And so it's just asking, can we enter into a contract with any application firm to do that treatment? The treatment's done in May when the population is susceptible to treatment, but we got to start the process now.
Right, and you have adequate funds to do this within your
Yes.
millings. And how is that actually holding out over the years?
It's doing very well. We're frugal within our operations. We have a fund balance of probably $800,000. That's part of the reason this year we recommended in our budget that we not collect millage, because we have sufficient funds to operate the program for a couple of years. We know we're going to be treating for emerald ash borer. That's going to cost us $50,000 to $75,000 every year. Gypsy moth, we can have the ability to collect enough money to operate at this point because we haven't sprayed for a couple of years. And so by being proactive and treating these populations where they're low, we can have that savings and keep our money in the bank until it's really needed.
So how are we in relationship to the surrounding areas directly, which would be Aranet County? Are they seeing any?
Aranet County does not have a program at all. So they, there's not even anybody in there looking at the county. I know they saw some defoliation last summer. But again, without somebody actually out there looking, it's a guess. Because I have friends that have property there, and they saw up in the Alger area, they saw some defoliation. West Branch saw some defoliation. So, we're able to keep our populations to the point where we don't actually ever have to experience that defoliation because we're always out there looking. If we weren't out there looking, we'd be probably treating more acres and, we would have had a lot more calls saying, I got caterpillars dropping on me and messing up my woods.
And we're still treating all the other trees within the county that we had been treating in the past, correct?
For the emerald ash borer, we treat trees on a rotating cycle. We have about 3,000, between 3,000 and 3,500 ash trees that we monitor and we maintain. And those are on a 3-year treatment cycle where a third of them gets treated every 3 years. So that's ongoing, and we keep track of those trees. And so the gypsy moth's treated on an area-wide treatment because the product we use is the caterpillar has to eat it. So you spray it on the leaves of the tree. Emerald ash borer lives inside the tree, so we actually have to treat individual trees with an injection. It would be like you getting a shot, a vaccine. And so that's that kind of treatment. So they're very different types of treatment programs, very different types of bugs. So they're totally separate in how we do them.
Okay. Mr. Durant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a new threat, they're going after hemlocks or something?
Hemlock woolly adelgid has been found in southwestern Michigan. They know that they've had populations introduced anywhere from 5 to 10 years ago through nursery stock, and these are an insect that it's a little teeny tiny thing. If you've ever seen cottony maple scale, most people are familiar with that in the summer. These are they form a cottony waxy coating in the fall to protect them, because that's when they actually are laying their eggs. And they feed on hemlock trees, and they take so much sap out of the tree, it actually kills it. And so that's one of the big threats that the DNR and the Department of Agriculture is asking us to keep an eye out for. And so, you know, if you look at maps, they don't say that Bay County is really at risk for hemlock woolly adelgid, but throughout Bay County, all the way from Munger all the way up to Gibson, we have very fine stands of hemlock. Hemlock's a very important plant for a lot of different wildlife that live in the woodlots. You know, turkeys absolutely love them. And so, because they're a good sheltering tree and they do provide food. So, though we don't have a huge component of hemlock, we're still looking for hemlock woolly adelgid.
Great, thank you.
We have no motion yet, right? So, anyone else have any questions before we have a motion? Seeing none, is there a motion?
There's a motion.
Oh, we do have a motion?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry, that's not that.
oh, no. They were fast then, weren't they? Okay, so we have a motion and support. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thanks, Lisa. Next we have under payables, general and bayonet. Where's your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any questions? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next is the Bay County TV statistics from May through October.
Move to receive.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Been getting a lot of views. Anyone have any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chip.
Just wanted to thank
Oh, sorry.
for all the work. It looks like there's some nice tables here. I'm sure that took you a little bit of time to do, so for the report, unless somebody else did it for you.
One man check.
Anyone else? Then I might miss. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next is the budget adjustments for the Health Department, Animal Control, Golf Course.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion on those? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next is the Information Systems, the 2019 budgeted maintenance expense. Where's your pleasure on that?
So moved. Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the analysis of the general fund equity.
Move to receive.
Support.
We have a motion received and support. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Then we have Executive Directive 2007-11, motion to receive would be in order.
So.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Nothing's changing. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next we have the County Executive, his objection to the Commissioner's 2019 budget. Motion to receive would be in order.
Support.
We have a motion and support. County
Mr.
Executive.
Chairman, I'll just explain. In the pre-meeting, we had a discussion with just a portion of the commission, but I would like to talk to each of the commissioners to get your, views and opinions. But what we'd like to do is enhance our animal control facility in Bay County, look at more community outreach, use of social media platform, and basically address some deficiencies, what we've seen in the past in terms of communication with the media, and whether it would be full-time position or the addition of just a part-time community outreach specialist, which I had requested, but now is, you know, we're considering possibly another option, and that would be just going back to a full-time manager, as we had, I think the last one was Karen Burns. I think in 2007, it got switched to a part-time management position. But I would like to, you know, discuss what benefits would accrue should we make the change. I want to work closely with the commission and Mr. Redmond and hopefully work something out so that we can get some improvements in addition to what we've seen out there. Our last Clear the Shelter event last Saturday, we adopted 22 cats and 6 dogs. But we still, for some reason, we're having a lot of cats coming into the shelter and, you know, this time of year. Not sure why, but the population continues to build, but we're very close to being at the no-kill threshold, just a little bit under the 90 percentile. So, but I look forward to working with the commission and seeing what we can do to enhance the, you know, the outreach and visibility. And I will say that we had 2 appearances. The chairman's nephew is a news director at WNEM TV5, and he's been helpful at getting Bay County into the rotation in the morning broadcast where you take an animal over, typically a dog, but sometimes cats. And then with the wide view of the viewership, TV5, it's you really reach a lot of people. And also would like to take a moment to thank our friend at WSGW, John Hall, is with us in the seats today, and thank him for his continuous coverage of our work here in Bay County. We're very grateful to John for that because I frequently get lots of comments from people who know what we're doing at the county level here in Bay County, and all of that information and communication helps with the public so that they have an understanding that we're moving forward, getting things done, and have significant accomplishments, I think, in this past year. So, any questions?
Commissioner Krieger.
I do. So Jim, if I hear what you're saying, so if we went from a part-time to a full-time, that individual would be the one responsible for working with the media instead of Craig?
Yeah, Craig oversees animal control, but he's been filling in as I have occasionally. Yeah, he's got a lot on his plate with the FOIAs and MMRMA and a lot of stuff, so kind of hard for him to be sort of the manager of animal control. But he has been helping. Couldn't be here today. He had a long planned respite with his family. So I think we can reach out to a lot more people through social media, through Facebook, through a website. Also someone who could go out as our manager, full-time, or community outreach specialist, speak to service clubs and organizations, and maybe at some point consider a possible small request, either $250,000 or $500,000 for animal control to fund the operations, which would take animal control offline from the general fund. I want to point out our treasurer and his staff does an outstanding job with the licensing. But the licensing of dogs and cats in Bay County, the cost of those licenses on the public generates about $111,000 per year for licenses for cats and dogs. So it'd be nice if we could see some of that revenue directed back to enhancing our operation in animal control.
So Rick, maybe you could address what that money is going for, where it's going?
As Jim pointed out, it's under the control of the county treasurer. There was a law, I think, in 1906 that county treasurers to sell dog licenses. Apparently our lobbyist wasn't too strong back then, but so it's been part of our function all these years. And as Jim said, it has been generating about $110,000 to $115,000 a year. It's pretty much run. I have one employee that does many functions in addition to that. That's the inputting of them, but she's also waiting on customers and checking legal descriptions and deeds, and then the deputy treasurer would oversee it. So, and we have a pretty good sales network. We have most of the vets in Bay County selling them, not all, some refuse to, but majority of them do. You can buy them at city and township treasurers. Animal control sells them, but the day-to-day managing and functioning is in my office, under my responsibility, and like I said, it's probably, I had to estimate, maybe a quarter of the time of that person, and then some management, but it's in the general fund budget on the treasurer's office because of the operation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Coons, next.
Thank you, sir. Jim, you've done a great job, and the folks at Animal Control have done a great job with the no-kill, and I think we've gone significantly higher to, and I don't even know what the percentages are, but you can get to a certain point where you're considered no-kill, correct?
Yes.
So we've done that. We've done that with the existing staff. And I think we're looking at about a $900,000 projected deficit for 2019. And I'm not supporting any new jobs, period. I'll support a new job that's funded. One of the sheriff's positions that's funded by Frankenlist in Auburn or wherever it is. But I'm not supporting, just so you know where I'm coming from.
Sure.
And I think we're at a zero-sum game. If something gets put in the budget, then we'll look in the budget and take something out. You know, I got a few spots that I've been reviewing, so if there's an increase on top of what Mr. Redmond has provided, then we'll have to look elsewhere and cut something somewhere else. We're at zero sum, we're at $900,000, you know. We can't keep adding to this because sooner or later, this is going to be a snowball rolling downhill. And then our fund balance is depleted, and then we lay people off. We're in a fairly good financial status at this time. I'm not supporting anything that new jobs, everybody loves a new job, but you know, we just don't have the resources. You know, and you're doing a great job there. I don't know why we need anybody to do some promoting there. And so I just want everybody to know where I'm coming from.
Sure. I understand. I think there's a lot of places to cut in the county budget to come up with that amount of revenue, but I'd be happy to work with the commission to identify where we can cut.
Commissioner Ryder.
Program, has the revenues for licenses over the last several years went up, or has it went down? You know, especially when we start looking at wages and fringes for employees taking care of that. How does that all fit together? And what would be your projection for those licensing fees that are collected by the treasurer? Do you expect that to trend up or trend down, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you look back over the last probably 5 to 7 years, it's pretty much on a level plane. It bounces around from maybe about 108, 110, 115. One year we hit 120. There's a little cycle in there because several years ago we went from selling them annually to a 3-year license. So there's a little bit of a break, like a half a year free by buying a 3-year license. Obviously that reduces the administrative burden. The animal owner only has to buy them once every 3 years. And we match it into the rabies date because one of the main purposes of the animal licensing is to make sure animals are up to date on rabies. So if you're getting a new rabies shot, they're good for 3 years typically. So the license and the rabies match in. If it's good for a year, you can buy a year. So we cycle that. So occasionally we get a little blip if we're in that like 3rd year or that 1st year of the cycle and they go up. But they've been pretty level. As far as how I guess we approach it is it's, you know, we send out renewal notices, people come and they buy them and we sell them. I've been here 24 years. I don't know of any push or anything to try to increase that revenue, to be honest with you. I think many years ago I used to hire high school students. I think Deanne used to be able to manage them. I don't know if they cost more than they made, but I don't know if that's an option where maybe there's some more marketing. I do know some county treasurers have marketed it more, and they've put out brochures, you know, get your license, get your rabies, protect your child, because we're trying to protect the children in the community. Maybe somebody somewhere wants to do some marketing on that aspect, but I guess I've approached it as the county treasurer fulfilling the requirement of the law, and our revenues kind of, that's what it is, so. But it's been fairly level. I don't see it changing much, like I said, year to year, so.
Rick, how would that affect you if that money that's generated went into the animal control? How would that affect your budget?
Well, if you're simply transferring money from my budget to a department budget, it's, I mean, I'm gonna have less revenue, but they're gonna have it. I mean, so if you're looking at the big picture, you're still just changing what shoebox you put it in, I guess, but like I say, yeah, they've been fairly stable, the revenue.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Motion received we have, right? And support? All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next, we have the 2019 county budget.
Yeah.
We want to, well, we can just do it all as one, right? We can do it all as one rather than going through each one, but, you know, we got a separate packet.
And you can, if you want, you can approve, they're all tied together.
Right.
So everything in 2 through 5 is included in the general, and the budget act resolution.
Right.
Or if someone just moves to approve to the 2019 general appropriations budget act resolution, then we can get into a discussion. And that will include all the appendixes.
Right. So what is your pleasure on that?
Well, we're going to refer it till next Tuesday, aren't we?
Well, would you like to have some discussion on it today?
Sure.
Sure, motion to approve.
Or
We have a motion and support? Okay, Commissioner Coonan, would you like to speak to this? Or,
I'll defer to somebody else. I'm going to speak on it, so.
okay,
What? What?
go ahead.
You came up to me before the meeting and asked about 2 sheriff's positions. I didn't see that in there. All right, so,
No, it's gonna come up under discussion.
pardon?
That'll be under discussion.
Okay,
So-
well, so,
Because I was presented with the same budget as you were and analyzed it, you know, once I got it. And then I brought that, I'll try to bring that up under discussion as we're,
oh, okay, go ahead.
Commissioner Ryder's next.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, I find myself more in the same position as Commissioner Conan. The one position, road patrol position, that is funded, and then there are 2 that aren't. You know, I see revenues, especially representing those people in Bay City within the city proper. They're paying their share right now. And there's others then that aren't, and I don't think it's equitable. And for that reason, I wouldn't tend to support that. I also think there are ways to, you know, we keep talking about the marijuana dispensaries and all this money that's going to be generated at that point. You know what, that's a better place to take it from, or get it from, certainly, than it would be from the good people that live within my district. I surely, at this time, I wouldn't support it. I think we should look for other ways to fund it. you know, particularly from outside for crying out loud, Hampton Township has police and fire they fund, you know, and when you go around and you look at those that do and those that don't, I don't know why we're, you know, gonna ask our constituents to pay that added cost, so.
Commissioner Kuhn.
And I don't even think those two positions are in there yet, right? That you spoke on. The one position that's in there that I could see that whoever did it, whether it was the sheriff or whoever did it the right way, he went to Frankenless and Calcallan, and they said they need more coverage, which is fine. But they're paying for it. And I don't have a problem with that. Now, if anybody brings up 2 additional road patrol positions, I'm not going to support that, because in my district, well, I got half a Bay City and I've got half a Bangor, and they both fund police for their own entities. And as Commissioner Ryder said, to ask my constituents to pay more for out-county coverage, I think somebody needs to sit down and look if we need coverage. The first time I've ever, you know, this is the first time I've been here 18 years that somebody's asking for more coverage. If we need it, where do you need it? And go to those jurisdictions and see if they want to pay for it. We shouldn't, the folks that I represent in the city of Bangor shouldn't have to pay for out of their area coverage because they're already paying for their coverage. So I'm not going to support any new sheriff's position or deputy position to be put in the budget. But I will support this because you know, that one particular position is being funded by those areas that want or say they need more coverage, and they're willing to pay for it. I don't have a problem with that. That's being paid for.
Okay. Yes, Bob.
My method on the requests, there were like 11 different degrees of requests for personnel. And the only ones that I recommended is those that had a revenue that would pay for it, which included Frank and Lust and Carl Collins' agreement to do 100% of a full-time, an additional new deputy. I've been trying to find where we could get more funds and for a second deputy, which the sheriff indicated to me before the meeting that 2 would be, you could work with 2. Well, I've come up with $50,000 of the $64,000 cost, and pretty sure that I could find the $14,000 without taking it out of fund balance. And for one more position, but that's about as far as I can find the revenue for any more. So that'd be 2. But I don't know where we find the funding for a third one. Because you're not going to get, we get some medical marijuana we have since 2017-18. That amounts to 29,000. One time we got 33,000. It looks like maybe 29,000 this year. Because the state determines every year how much each county will get. And the recreational marijuana, we may not see any money till late 2020. So that was the way I approached the request for changes in personnel was there money to go with that, you know, revenues.
Commissioner Kuhn.
I believe the way this should be approached, this should be a study where coverage is needed, and then see if those folks want to pay for it, period. Not just say we're going to put 2 more out there somewhere. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to, you know, who needs the coverage? If nobody's saying they need the coverage, then we don't need the positions. But if somebody say they need the coverage, then are they willing to pony up and pay? I don't think everybody in the county should pay for these deputies because, you know, they're already In the city, it's 19 mills, and I think that goes to all of police and fire. So to be asked people that I represent to pay more, I wouldn't do it.
Just a second. Commissioner Krieger.
So, Troy, if we did get these 2 additional deputies, are they going to be daytime, nighttime? What void are they
And
going
I
to
think that's
fill?
where this is kind of coming. For one, we've been down with where our count is. I mean, we had 42 deputies not long ago. We're down to 34. Pinconning has put 3 new deputies on, which takes us up to 37. General cars are what we're lacking that run the whole county-wide. So what we're running into is like on night shift, there's 2 bodies out there for 442 square miles. So it isn't, like I'm not looking at it as brand new positions. I think we've had them, and I don't know if they've been filled in the past, which I can't speak for some of that. And I mean, that's something I guess we look at. We're just trying to look at where the coverage is on night, the officer safety issues that are out there, and just trying to provide the best county we can as far as safety. That's all we're trying to do. We run low if we have 2 guys running night shift, and it's just with the bodies we have right now with the counts. The townships have come up. We've got a lot of township deputies that are out there, but contractually they're staying in a township. So that isn't working for them patrolling like everything where everybody's just going all over at night. That's where we're running short. I mean, we have a car in Bangor Township, that's true, they pay for that. But a lot of those other townships are already paying maybe for 1 deputy or whatever it is to supplement, but we're still running low and run into actual general cars that are traveling the county and patrolling all the other businesses and everything else throughout the county, and officer safety. That's kind of where we're looking at it from. But we've had that in the past. These are just positions that I don't know that we've gotten them back. I don't know where they went, and that's kind of where the question is.
Just a clarification then, how many cars do we run during the day versus 2 at night?
Yeah, during the day shift you're still running, but if you talk about general cars that can go throughout the county, because not every township's got them in there. I mean, you're right, Hampton does. We're not out there a lot, but we do work closely with the city, and our night cars sometimes do end up with big events that happen in the city, backing them up at night too. So we do go into the city as well as throughout the whole county, but on each shift during day shift, we have 1 general car on each rotation. I mean, there's just more townships that take up that slack. When it goes to night shift, those townships don't have as many bodies. You know, they don't have 24 coverage with the exception of like Bangor, and we got a few in Monitor. So that's where we're looking at it, and like we discussed kind of with the medical marijuana or whatever else is out there, if there are ways, just a way to be a little bit more efficient or proactive, that's kind of where we're lacking. Because there's a lot of times where we've got 2 deputies out there, and if something big happens, we're leaving the county open. And it's just, that's something where I feel like I'm kind of lacking, where we should be a little bit more, solid, if possible. I mean, I'm not looking to do the impossible, but it's just an officer safety and patrol issue.
Thank you.
Commissioner Coonan.
Troy, you said we've gone from 42 to 37, but you don't know how.
Correct. I mean, back in
Somebody's
like
gotta know how.
2001 through 2004, if you look at like where MCO's numbers were, we just had a lot more guys that were on the road patrol. There was just a lot more patrolmen, and it just, right around, it seems like 2008 and forward, we've just kind of, it's gone down. And it's probably on our behalf if they weren't getting filled or something, I don't know. They weren't grant-funded positions before. I mean, since I've been there, I remember 1 grant position we had, and that was early 2000s. You know, it was a Bangor officer that we had on a grant. Since then, it's just kind of down a little. That's all I'm looking at.
Commissioner Herrick.
Thank you. So, and I think, I've talked to you about this stuff before too, and it's not even like we're not adding on to something we already had. We just don't, we cut somewhere along the line, it got cut, and you weren't here, so it wasn't your doing. But it's somehow, we never knew it, I don't think, as a board. And we're not even asking to be up to where we were at one time. And I know I have a lot of people that asked me that, they said that they, in the townships, and even like I said, I know the cars go through the city because I see them a lot, but they can't respond in a timely manner mostly because there isn't anybody. It's not that they don't want to, there is no one.
Correct.
And I think I think we owe that to the people. That's my take on it, you know, and I'll feel like I said, I see them on Michigan Avenue, I see them on Lincoln, you know, I see them in the South End, I see them on Salisbury. They go through. It's not like they just ride around off the Munger and stay out there. They're moving, and that's what a presence is what's needed. You know, that's in my estimation. And you know, I've watched the city. You know, the city has maintained a pretty decent force of police, not so much on the fire side. And you know, it bothers me a lot that, you know, I know there's one fireman in every station, in all the outside stations in town, and if my house is burning, there ain't gonna be nobody there. There ain't gonna be nobody to do anything. So I better just get out and watch it burn, because that's what's gonna happen. And we don't, this public safety thing, and with the police, I mean, I think there needs to be somebody around in an area, and I know even the city police, at nighttime, there's nobody on duty, hardly one or two guys in the whole city. So it's not any different, it's just a different level, you know. I just want to see us get close to where we're not even asking. Like I said, I don't think it's not really an increase, it's just coming back to a decent level where we can operate as a county. That's all I got.
Commissioner Durant.
Thank you. I agree with the commissioner here. I mean, the people everywhere, they're paying 5 point some odd millage for general appropriations and stuff. And we had those deputies before, and I think in fairness to the deputies too, there could be some liability issues here where they, you know, they're understaffed and everything else, and they don't have backup sufficient enough in the evenings and stuff like that. And I could support one extra besides what was in there. Thank you.
Commissioner Kuhn.
Well, I think we should have a countywide assessment instead of dropping this on us at the budget hearings and say we need 3. And we should have, somebody should do an assessment, see what we need, and see who's willing to pay for it. And I don't know, you know, we haven't laid any officers off in the last 10 years, have we?
Only when we had to lay a bunch of people off, back when, in the early 2000s and before that. But we also have a friend of the court deputy, which friend of the court helps pay for. We have a warrant officer, but he has a quartermaster and of course those are good jobs, so it's a high quality or high seniority that gets those jobs. And you know, maybe he could look at, I don't know, look at the quartermaster who's way up there. Maybe he should be on road patrol, and you'll find a non-deputy for that position. And I don't know if a friend of the court could contribute more. I don't think he does more than that, does he? Friend of the court, he does that.
FOC's hired through him, he works for FOC.
So we need to talk to the friend of the court and see if they can't pay more of that position. So I'm looking for more revenue. It's easy to just say, okay, let's put more on. And I'm convinced that there are townships out there that would take on more responsibility for road patrol if they wanted. I mean, Frankenless and Call Collins stepped right up and paying that, plus Call Collins is paying the cost into the pool deputy that Frankenless got out. They don't pay, Frankenless not paying, so now Call Collins not only stepped up for the 60% of the full-time new position, but they stepped up and are paying what Frankenless is no longer going to pay into the pool. And Beaver said they were not going to do that. His Steve Gray's board said no. And apparently Fraser's not into it, because you're down to what, 3 townships now in the pool.
Correct.
And it used to be like 8 or 9 years ago. So everybody else to get out of the pool are paying 100% of the coverage they get. So we need to have, and there's 3 townships in the county that don't pay anything. And, you know, Moth Forest, Garfield, Gibson. And then we have more and more schools coming up that want to pay. We got one in Western, and there's another one.
Bangor.
Well, that's not hired yet, but that's Linwood. And there's another one.
So they're looking at that for Linwood, but Bangor's the other one you have.
Yeah, Bangor.
Bangor is a resource.
Yeah, Bangor, that's right. Well, at least we're finding funding for it. And like Commissioner Coonan said earlier, you know, you get people in Hampton and Essexville, City of Bay City, City of Pinconning, and then Bangor and contractual basis, you know, they have their own departments, but Bangor, Williams, Monitor, they all pay for what they get. So if we're gonna have, and plus the county pays 60% of one deputy to do the county patrol. And a few other townships, we're in the pool. So I think there are different ways to come up with funds for another one, but right now I'm only 3/4 of the way funding the second one. And what you haven't seen yet, though, is the fund balance. You know, we're projected to use $892,000 in next year's budget, but which would bring down the fund balance according to finance to $1.5 million. And I remember when I was double digit, you know, a couple million, more than a couple million. But, we have to watch that. Maybe we should start looking at what you're willing to cut back on until we come to a point where you want to, you know, reprioritize some funding. So, you know, it's a good idea to come up with what you think you need in law enforcement, but you also need to reprioritize some other things so that there are proper funds for proper law enforcement. So.
Commissioner Harry.
Bob, you oversaw the budget all the time when these guys were being cut, so what happened to them?
Pardon?
What happened to all these people? You were been doing this for a long time, so when all these people disappeared, you had to make that recommendation that they didn't get back in, right or wrong?
Well, I make the recommendations on the budgets, but on this one, I think if given time, we could come up with more funding
But not
to pay for it.
not this one, but where all these guys really disappeared, where we're not up to the level we were before. I mean, so we were down before that, before they got those other three out, Pinconning, we're actually down to like 34.
Well, before, we didn't have a road patrol person in front of the court. We didn't have a road patrol person doing the warrants. All the deputies did that. And so, you know, we've got all these, but then we didn't have a quartermaster. So these are all positions that got put in long before Mr. Cunningham was there, Sheriff Cunningham. Well, what I'm saying is the fund balance is going down and we're going to hit bottom quicker than we think. The way we got in such good financial conditions is sometimes having to make some tough decisions. And I'm personally convinced that at a township association meeting, if we could tell them what we're up against and what the sheriff thinks they need in patrol, especially nighttime where crimes happen, that they would come up with the funding for that. Because like you said earlier, it's only, those people who are paying 100% of their road patrol, which is most of the population that have it, are paying 100%. The county right now pays 60% of one deputy, because whether the 3 townships up north have road patrol or not, we have an obligation to put the most minimal service to them, even though they're not paying. So that's where we cover it with the 60% deputy in the pool. So it depends on whether you want to start funding more of it out of fund balance, and if you do, then how do we give an argument to the other townships in the cities that are already paying 100% of the road patrol?
100% covers 8 hours a day.
Pardon?
That's like for 8 hours, that 100% coverage will cover for 8 hours a day. But
But that's what they want.
I know, but wouldn't they like it? They probably wouldn't like somebody at night, I would imagine. I mean, if somebody
Well,
driving through.
I would think you're right, but what I'm saying is that who is going to pay for it? We have a need, who's going to pay for it? Is it the townships that want the service, the additional service, or do we want to open that window or that door and start paying for overflow with general funds? That's up to you. I'm just giving you all the facts.
Defer to
Commissioner Kuhn.
As I said earlier, I think there should be an analysis countywide of what we need and what people are willing to pay, and then we go from there. So, I don't know, Troy, I think you've probably been going to these township meetings, but we haven't had the opportunity to hear from these folks or to question them at all. You know, let's find out what we need, let's find out what we're willing to pay for, and then we go from there. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, before the sheriff speaks for a second time, I just wanted to, and I understand completely what Commissioner Coonan's concern is and Mr. Redmond's. I do think, though, public safety is probably top on the agenda if we were to, speak with our constituents or even do a poll or whatever. I think public safety would be paramount in terms of what people hope to get in exchange for the taxes they're paying to government. The concern I think that I hear, and I understand why maybe in the city, other than backup, people might be hesitant to expend more on the sheriff's department budget because you're paying for a city police department, or in Hampton Township Police Department. But in the final analysis, we only have 2 deputies between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. And a lot of the break-in enterings that occur between those hours after dark. Now we know we have a lot of dispensaries operating throughout Bay County. They have their product is very expensive, and in addition, they typically, I don't want to speak up, have any targeted as a result of my remarks, but there's a lot of cash deals that are, the sales are cash. There's a lot of cash probably that could be accessed should a break-in occur. So if you have, let's say out on M13, a fatal auto accident, and then 1 or 2 break-ins or home invasions or something, who knows with the crime rate today, in another part of the county. I know we have state police, but they're primarily focused on the interstates. And so if you have somebody securing an accident, a serious accident or a fatal accident, and then you have a crime being committed, somewhere else, as the sheriff pointed out, 442 square miles. It's a lot of geography to cover for 2 deputy sheriffs for an 8-hour shift. And I know I've heard from people throughout, not in individual commission districts, but just general throughout, outside the city, throughout the county, that, in fact, we had a meeting, and some of our commissioners and Mr. Redmond met out at Frank West Township, and I think, and there is a Bay County Township Officers Association tomorrow evening at Mount Forest Township Hall. They have quarterly meetings, and they have pretty good attendance. Most of the trustees, all the supervisors and elected officials are there, and I know they'd welcome sharing their views, but some feel that public safety should be one of the things they can expect to get in exchange for the property taxes, and 2 deputies is a little light to cover that much geography in the entire county. So I can understand what the sheriff's coming. I want to compliment Sheriff Troy Cunningham for the great job that he's been doing, keeping Bay County safe and having somewhat of limited resources to do that. But I appreciate the difficulty of working through this budget. But on a final note, I would say this discussion and our interaction on the budget is, I think, very healthy. and ultimately we'll develop a budget that'll be good for the residents of Bay County, and we'll work through the issues. And I'd like to see enhanced public safety as well as doing something with animal control, and just have to, I guess, look at our priorities and what the public expects. Sometimes their expectations evolve over time. And I know with the concern for pets and animals, it's wherever you go, around the country, around the state, there's a lot of focus on trying to, provide a more progressive approach toward managing pets and animals in all the county, all the jurisdictions. And but anyway, I just wanted to say between 11 and 7 a.m. is not, I don't think, a lot of officers on the road, given the size of Bay County and the population, and sometimes the fact that we have to recognize that crime is mobile. It may not be residents committing crime, but it may be people coming from outside the county and targeting specific businesses for breaking and entering and trying to pour capital to fuel drug habits or whatever they do. So that's my comment, but look forward to further discussion on the budget and thank the Commission for their review of everything that's been proposed. Thank you.
Troy, I don't know if they got any other questions for you. I got one, but Michael
Thank you, Mr.
Durant.
Chair. I attend all the township meetings. As you know, my district has 7 townships in the city of Bay County. And they're under the impression out there that a lot of them are, that they don't mind helping out a little bit, but the smaller ones, they feel that that's included in their 5 mills. 98% of them have never been to the ice arena. They've never been to the golf course. There's a lot of stuff out there that taxpayers are paying for that they don't feel that they should have to pay extra for police protection. I'm just giving you the message, all right? Because like I said, tonight I've got a meeting in Garfield. Tomorrow night we're at the Township Association. We'll probably speak to different things out there whenever I go. But I'm just telling you, that's the impression out there. These people have never been to the ice arena. Never. Never been to golf. Never swung it off, but they don't golf. That's what I'm dealing with in rural Bay County. But they're still paying 5.72 mils. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Most of the contracts that we have, Troy, with different jurisdictions, if you want to call them townships or whatever, those townships basically say that's our deputy. They don't want to see them anywhere else.
Yeah, they're contracted to that area, yes, sir.
Right. And, most of them are on days.
Yes, sir. And that's what we run into. And they've already, a lot of those townships have already paid or have their guys. And I mean, they'll move their shifts a little bit, but at the end of the day, this comes down to at night with what we've got out there. So that's all. If there was anything I just wanted to bring to your attention, just like I said, for officer safety and just the overall of the county right now, it's just a little bit like 2 guys for 442 square miles is a little like. So.
Okay. Yes, Jen?
I have an additional change to recommend a change to the Appropriation Act. In paragraph number 4, we're just requesting to remove the word not, create a debt incurred by the county. So it's just shows a negative, so we're just asking to remove that word not, and we'll do that in the next, for next week's resolution that's brought forward.
Okay, just amend that and take that out.
Correct.
Okay. English grammar. Yes, Commissioner Brigade.
I have one other amendment that I've been asking for a few years, and that's to eliminate per diem pay for county commissioners. We get $45, there's four different committees, probably a couple $1,000 if you add all that up. I think the public people on those boards, I have no problem paying per diem, but we're getting a salary and then we're getting per diem on top of it, so that's number 20. So that would be one of my recommendations to save some money.
If you include healthcare with that, I'll support it.
Healthcare and pension, I'd like to include our pension plan too, which is,
I said healthcare.
yeah. And healthcare.
You gotta understand the pension. You're already vested, right? If you're vested. But the healthcare, there is no vesting. So, if you wanna include healthcare, I'm with you.
Sure.
I'll support it.
Okay, so we don't have any other.
Is that a motion to eliminate per diem and healthcare?
Are we voting on the general budget today, or are we going to defer to next week? I guess, my vote would just be on the general budget. It's not an amendment, just a vote on the general budget.
Well, we brought the budget here to have discussions like we have, because, we need to have an open forum to do that. I mean, we could, amend the budget here today and then move it forward to next week. That would be fine. We had a motion and support for the budget as it stood, correct? So what do we have to amend each one thing, parliamentarian?
That's entirely up to the board to go through every single budget.
No, well, I'm just,
It's easier if they have a recommendation for an amendment on a particular thing. It make it a lot easier for finance for the next meeting too.
right. I mean, Jan's change to the language, we would need a motion for that. Okay.
If you change anything, then we also have to change the numbers in the resolutions.
Right. If you
That's why
modify.
if they, I think we'd prefer, if you would, but that's entirely up to the board, is to have any amendments done tonight so that we can give you a full, completed budget.
Right, because the only other way to do it would be budget adjustments after the fact.
After the fact.
Okay.
It'd be in 2019.
We'd already do that anyways.
Is there an agenda?
So we could do the one with the language real easy by having a motion, right? For what Jan was,
I'll just correct that. So the correct version will go to the full board.
right. Don't know any motion. Okay. As presented.
That's just a typographical error.
Well, sort of, yeah. Been in there all the time. So anybody else want to make an actual motion to amend the budget as presented?
I'd move to eliminate per diem pay, number 20 for county commissioners, and also healthcare for county commissioners. It's not against the law. We've had discussion on that before.
If all of the commissioners are,
Obamacare.
all of the
If
commissioners
we're
are,
full-time employees or we're part-time employees, is the question, I guess, that we discussed before.
and the discussion that we had before, there are different various ways that the Board of Commissioners could establish that they were not acting as full-time employees. Some of them included keeping timesheets. We went over those options at that point. The difficulty that you have is in any given week, you exceed the amount of time that you're supposed to work under the Affordable Care Act, then we run into retroactive problems.
I believe that was removed when the Republicans took over. You may want to check that.
It was not.
I think it was.
Just mandated insurance policy, I think it just said they removed that you had to have the insurance, that part only.
The individual mandate
Well, the
that
penalty for not
penalized
having-
you if you didn't hold insurance was removed, the individual mandate.
So what are you saying regarding healthcare?
That the county is required under the Affordable Care Act to offer health care to all full-time employees. At this point in time, the Board of Commissioners are considered full-time employees for purposes of the pension system. In order to not offer the health care benefit, we would have to establish that each and every board member, in fact, did not work more than 30 hours in any given week. How we would be able to keep track of that, and how we would be able to assure that each individual board member did not exceed that time period.
I think all we have to do is change the policy, don't we? It's a policy.
No.
We adopted that policy. All we got to do is change the policy,
Well, I guess
that we are not full-time.
Well, whether or not you're full-time depends on how many hours you work, not whether or not you're designated full-time or part-time. Right now, every single Board of Commissioner gets a stipend, a salary that they're paid, but it's not based on full or part-time status, it's just a stipend that you're paid. How many hours you actually work in any given week is what determines whether or not you're full-time or part-time for purposes of the Affordable Care Act.
So if you don't you have to offer it, but there's no penalty if you don't, if they don't take it, or, I mean, the penalty is gone. That mandated people have some health coverage now, not the county, maybe some other coverage, so that part is gone, so there's no penalties.
Well, the individual mandate.
You still have to offer it?
The employer mandate is still there. Right, the employer still has to offer it. If you have an individual, for instance, who is not offered insurance through their employer because they are getting their insurance from the marketplace, it used to be with the individual mandate that they were required to have insurance, and if they didn't have that insurance, they would be penalized. The employer mandate just indicates that if you have an employee who's working over 30 hours per week, you are required to offer that benefit to the employee. Because the individual mandate is gone, the employee does not have to accept the insurance or take advantage of the insurance, but it has to be offered by the employer.
Support the motion.
With the healthcare.
Yeah. We have a motion and support with the healthcare provider along with per diem.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Although I don't know that we can act on it, right?
There are ways that you could be creative if the commission so desired.
We should keep a log. You can keep a log as much time as you put in. It's not that hard to write down. How we're at a meeting here, how we're at a meeting there.
Just got to vote on it first.
Well, I just want to make sure it was legal that we voted on it. So we'd have to change some policy later.
We would have to change some timekeeping provisions as it relates to the board members. There would have to be record keeping, ensuring that no board member worked more than 30 hours per week. If in fact a board member did work more than 30 hours per week, then we would be subject to penalties under the ACA if we did not offer the benefit.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Yes, Commissioner Ray.
Under discussion. Mr. Chairman, I don't receive a stipend for health care. I checked that off and refused it. However, I do receive a per diem, and it's one per diem a month, and serve on other committees as well. And I would certainly be in favor of getting rid of the health care for part-time employees or commissioners, but not on the committees. Stepping on committees. So I'll be voting against the motion.
Anyone else under discussion? Commissioner Durant.
I agree with Tom on this one. Also, I don't take per diem, and I do not take health care from a commissioner's job. But if the per diem, I could support just a per diem, taking that away for commissioners, but I'm afraid of legal ramifications. I don't know how many commissioners are on health care currently, but I'm just worried about getting into trouble with the requirements of health care. That's currently the law, not our policy, but the law. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else? Okay, probably should take a roll call vote, huh? Or no? Would we, Bob?
Pardon?
Should we take a roll call vote?
Yeah, it's an amendment to the proposal.
Okay.
What about in lieu of health care?
Pardon?
What about in lieu of health care? Does this affect them? Commissioners who don't get health care get in lieu of health care. They get a payment.
Oh, they get the $1,800.
Yeah.
Is that
Stipend.
included in this too?
Well, they might want it, but it wasn't brought up.
Yes.
There's a in lieu of
eliminate
payment.
in lieu
Yes,
of
all of
healthcare
it.
as well.
I don't take that either.
So the motion is to remove the per diems per meeting,
For commissioners.
to remove the insurance and the $1,800
Correct.
per diem if you don't
In lieu of
accept it.
insurance.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Duranza?
No?
Krieger?
No.
Begic?
Yes.
Kunin?
Yes.
Ryder?
No.
Herrick?
No.
Lutz?
No.
5-2 defeated.
Okay, any other amendments to the budget?
What are we doing with, I have a question. What are we doing with the, do we decide anything on the deputy thing or no?
There's been no motion brought forth.
Okay.
There was this discussion that Commissioner Coonan brought up because of a side discussion. No motion.
Go ahead, Ray.
Commissioner Krieger.
So if Mr. Redmond is able to find some additional funding for that second deputy,
I'm up to 50 of the 64,000, so that need more time to the 14.
is it possible that that would be done before next
Yes.
week's meeting? So if indeed the fund source is there, then I certainly would support the two deputies and not the third.
I'll get right on it. I'll let
Can't we-
Commissioner Herrick and Lutz know.
If it's there, we can always, I mean, I sometimes I get a little confused. We're gonna have a little conversation, but if we approve it today, it doesn't mean it just goes to the board for another vote?
Correct. Yes.
So do we need to, so the question, I guess the question is, do we need to do that today, or can we do it all at one time?
Well, that's up to you. All I'm saying would be, we'll do it any way you want.
I know, but if we need to do something today, I mean, so we said, yeah, go ahead, and then next week there's no money, then we can say no. But can we say, next week, can we say, yeah, go ahead and we're good to go? Do we have to go before Ways and Means and then the full board, I guess is my question.
That makes it smoother, but you can still make amendments at the full board.
Okay.
I think if we adopt the budget with the one deputy and you get the money for the other deputy, you can make that change next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the budget as it is.
I'll second.
There is a motion on the floor.
Then we already got a motion and support for adopting the budget as presented. We're just seeing if we're gonna change it. The deputy that you're talking about, Commissioner Coonan, is already in the budget.
Yes.
That one is already there. What all the discussion was about is taking and
I
adding
understand.
two more.
Not two more, one more.
Two more.
One more.
Yeah, it was adding two more, because the other one is already in the budget.
But I think we were talking about adopting the budget. Well, we can just refer it until Tuesday, and if Bob comes, I'm only looking at approving or voting yes for one additional deputy, other than what's in the budget.
Well, when you're adopting the budget, you're adopting all these changes that were made since the executive
I understand
recommended
that.
budget.
I understand
Which
that.
was the vast majority is from finance.
Right.
So you'd be voting on not the one that was submitted by the executive, but the one that was submitted by the executive with these changes.
Right, I understand that, and that has one deputy in there.
Correct.
And that's what this motion, whoever made the motion should be regarding adopting that particular budget. And if you come up with the additional funds for the second deputy, then next Tuesday, we can amend that and include that.
Close.
Right. So,
Okay, just so that you know, that particular deputy that's approved is the one for Colin and Frankenless.
I understand that.
Okay, on days,
On days,
on days.
I have no idea how they're, I don't think we tell them how to shift or schedule their shifts, but.
Ask him.
Frankenless and Colin will already have a full-time new one. And so if there's, more deputies available later, then they can go. We don't tell the sheriff or the townships when they want their patrol. We just budget the money and you guys assign them.
Right. But if you ask the sheriff on the Colin Frankenless deputy, that'll be a day shift deputy.
Yeah, right now they're looking at starting a guy. I think that's what they're planning on because just their business is in daytime. But any of those townships, yeah. I mean, they give a recommendation. We try to schedule, but a lot of them they have one township, so it's on days is where they're usually putting them.
Right. So
That's where we're manning. And we got one general on each rotation on day shift as well. So the townships are there. I mean, the general cars are backing up the townships. They go and then they try to patrol the township and respond to all the calls throughout the county. The townships stay locked in unless there's some dire emergency. But those are extra funded by the township that they want patrolling their township. It's just the way they have it set up right now. And when they come out with the new positions, they're like Frankenless. From the discussion I've heard from the two supervisors out there so far, they're looking at starting something or maybe having a little bit of a swing shift to start with, but having it flex where if something's coming up, they're going to nights. That's what they're talking about. But each one just works different. But the townships don't, it goes different from each one, I guess.
Right. Okay. So,
If I'm not mistaken, whoever made the motion is, as the budget was changed, and that is with one new deputy, and Bob can get that other deputy funded next Tuesday, we can amend the budget to include that.
Right,
So-
which would be the,
I don't know where it's gonna be, it's just giving them two more deputies.
right. So we can amend it next week, correct? But as the budget that was presented to us is what the motion is. It includes all the changes by us via Bob and included, which is the reductions that he told us in personnel and the reductions of the revenues and expenditures, causing a use of around $800,000 in fund balance.
92.
Yeah, okay, 892. That's the one we're voting on. And then we can amend it next Tuesday to add any other deputies if we, right?
Right.
I just want to be, everybody to be clear what you're voting. That's all.
If I can, I have making a motion, Commissioner Kuhn.
Yeah.
Commissioner Krieger supporting.
Right.
Initially. Yeah. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign?
Opposed.
Oh, and one opposed.
6-3 motion carries.
Okay. With that, we approved all that, right, Mom? 1 through 5. Okay, next we have referrals, which is Resolution 2018-242
For,
and that's the pooled car, okay, where Franklin's came out of it and Collins now picking up their share. Correct, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. So they redid the financing of that, so, we have a motion and support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I don't believe we have any other unfinished business. New business, there isn't gonna be anything. I was gonna bring something up, but I'm not going to at this time. Do we have a closed session needed?
No need for a closed session, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any miscellaneous? Any announcements from anyone?
I'd like to congratulate our county executive for being elected to the to the United States County elected executives vice president. So in a strip in Washington over the weekend, about 3,000 counties, isn't there, that belong?
Members, yeah.
Yeah, 3,000 members. So
County.
hopefully maybe you
Thank you.
can bring home some money to Bay County
I
for
did visit
law
Capitol
enforcement
Hill,
or
but
something.
I think they have the same problems we do, apparently.
Well,
But
anyway,
anyway,
congratulations, Jim.
Thank you, Commissioner Durancheck, but I do want to I think this was a healthy discussion on the budget, and, you know, we'll work our way through it and hopefully do as much as we can for our residents, so, thank you.
Commissioner Regan.
We had a Michigan Association of Counties Board meeting last week. They are looking for committee members. They have Agriculture and Tourism Committee, Environmental and Regulatory Affairs Committee, Finance Committee, General Government Committee, Health and Human Services Committee, Judiciary and Public Safety Committee, and Transportation Committee. If you're interested, contact them or contact me. Steve Curry is our Executive Director. And also they're monitoring the lame duck to make sure the lame duck doesn't do any crazy stuff in Lansing. There's one thing they're trying to get through is the property tax for disabled veterans. They're trying to get that changed from a property tax write-off to a tax credit. It would not affect our coffers as much. It would go against the state versus against our property tax collection. They're working real hard on that. If you see your representative or a senator, tell them to think about voting for that one. Don't have the bill number right now, but I'll go through.
It's a
Move to adjourn.
Senate bill, I believe. We have a motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
I